And people walk by and out comes their wallet. It seems like he has a way of convincing people that the product is great, and it is a great product. But as the owner of the company and the inventor, you can't really believe me. But if somebody else says it's a really great product and he uses it, and that's the next generation, that's a very wonderful endorsement. Okay, so the inventing that I do now, and the work that I do, goes back lots and lots of years when I was a college student at University of Pennsylvania studying math and fine arts. So that's basically what I love. I love math and I love art. And when I played tennis, this is the current invention, but I'm giving you a little bit of background. So when I played tennis at Penn, my painting was really important. I paint quite realistically and large. And when I played tennis, my arm hurt from the conventionally strung rackets. And I was teaching geometry, and I was painting. I have this math art thing going, and I can't give up either. I love both. And so I was playing tennis. I'm athletic. I was playing tennis, and it was hurting my arm. So in my apartment at Penn, on the wall, I had these snowshoes. And I one day looked at these snowshoes and said that the Indians who designed these, the Native American Indians, probably knew that this dispersed the impact better and dispersed man's weight. They had, boots on them. I'm sure they had straps to hold your feet. And that nowadays, I'll tell you, snowshoes are rubber that you just stick your feet in, and it's just elastic, So it's not currently valid. But when this was invented, the impact of man's weight was dispersed in more directions. And I thought that they were onto something, because it would have been easier for them to string it like a basket in two directions. But they must have inherently known that this is a stronger weave. And even the Japanese have many of their baskets dating back to the 1200s with this basket weave, which I love. People send me things that are woven like this because they know that I really like this. And I figured out that if you have these verticals and you intertwine these diagonals, you get a three-directional weave. And at only one point, at each point, only two strings cross. It's not like very bumpy where three strings intersect at a bump. They intersect in X's between the rows of verticals. And so I calculated this mathematically. I figured out what this pattern is in geometry, and then I traced a racket and brought these things out to where the strings would intersect the frame. And I got a friend in the dental school to give me his Dremel and drill. And in my house, I had, a table with a drill, and I would drill the rackets, and then I would Dremel. Rackets used to have, wooden rackets had a channel where the strings were submerged below the surface, so if you hit like that, you wouldn't break the string. So then with the Dremel drill, I made the channel of where the racket's string would sit, and I went out and I played a friend who I was always even with. And that day, I beat her 6 games in a row. And I made her swear that she didn't lose on purpose. And she said, no, you're really better. And so I then applied for a patent. And what I did is I did the budget kind of patent where I wrote up the whole patent. The said first part, said second part, and I got a patent attorney to write the claims, because I realized that the claims are the whole thing of the patent, and the rest is background of the invention of all the ancillary parts of a patent. The only thing that really protects anyone are the claims. So you can't claim like the whole world. It has to be your invention. And so basically, I was able to claim a racket that was strung in a unique pattern of three-directional grid, and the week that he was born, I got a patent, and I thought, wow, this is terrific, and so I was written up in the New York Times. Stacey V. Jones is the Times editor, and I guess it's rare that a woman inventor. I mean, there's a lot more men in the room than women, because I think there's a lot more men inventors than women inventors. And so, they wrote up this article about it, and then shortly after, I contacted a lot of racket companies and rackable racket companies, and I was able to get Dunlop, which was a good coup. I thought I was going to retire, but in fact, they did not keep up their end of the bargain. But Dunlop made a racket. This is a Dunlop racket with the MadRaq pattern, and they sent me the rackets without any holes in it, and I showed them. I did my little math calculation that I figured out, and I traced the racket, figured out what the angle has to be, and see this says Dunlop MadRaq. And so they were going to make a lot of these. But they ended up just taking my patent and putting it in the drawer for 2 years. And in the third year, they had an option not to renew. And they said they're going to renew. And I said, why would you renew if you didn't make any rackets? And they said, well, we're going to go to Kmart and we're going to have one afternoon. We're going to sell 10,000 rackets. And then we'll make back our money. And that's exactly what they did. And so they then made this racket in metal very cheaply. 25 years later, somebody called and said, I have a Dunlop racket, it was called McEnroe MadRaq, a Dunlop racket that the strings never break. So stringers didn't really like this product because once they learned how to string in 3 directions, which took longer, you'd never see the people again because the strings last seemingly forever. So that was one problem that I encountered. And so I sold it to Dunlop, and then I contacted a rackable racket company, and they gave me a racket, and I strung it up. And the pro said they have a metal racket, and it absolutely improved the way the strings made the racket vibrate. And so they first, in the first year, Omega is this company, they put it in one of their 11 rackets. And that was the only racket that sold. And the next year, they had 12 of their 13 with MadRaq. And that was terrific that they...
Say what MadRaq is.
Yes, MadRaq is the name that I designed, that I named this because Madeline's racket, MadRaq. So a lot of people still call me MadRaq, or if you see a duck like MadRaq, you think the duck is talking to me. So this is here, the racket. It was quite unique. And in the Wimbledon Museum,
What's the tennis racket?
The tennis racket. So after I did this Omega thing in the Dunlop, I had some funds to make rackets, and we had distribution all over the world. The Japanese company Suntory picked up the racket and started selling rackets there, and a British company sold it as well. And at Wimbledon, the racket is in permanent display in Wimbledon and in the International Tennis Hall of Fame in Rhode Island. So the racket, the MadRaq racket, seems to have been widespread. We had pros, this guy Todd Whitskin, who was a great tennis player, doubles, which I didn't realize when I signed him up. And so he would win a tournament in Sweden, and I'd have to read it in the New York Times and owe him a lot of money because if he won tournaments, he got in his contract a bonus. But he was 50th in the world in tennis, and then he was 8th in the world, in singles, and he was 8th in the world in doubles. But we had a booth for 5 years at the US Open. And for instance, this was MadRaq, this was our logo marketing, and this is one of the rackets that we sold to Japan and England.
That's right.
Yeah, but I'll see here. Let's do this one here. You can look at it closely. Here. That's the MadRaq with that when I went in personally, not part of Dunlop. And that's a rackable racket.
So your design took the vibration out of the arm and everything then.
It's unbelievable that here's another racket this is the MadRaq 3-string. For a while I was calling it that. So MadRaq was, interesting, but it had some drawbacks. It was before the internet, so anybody who needed the stringing directions, I'd have to physically send to them. You couldn't look it up online. I wasn't smart enough to put whole numbers around the frame. because I didn't think of that. But when everybody complained that it was so hard to string, I then said, okay, that's really hard to string, so maybe I should rethink what's going on. And that player retired, and actually, sadly, he died. But he really was great. One day at the U.S. Open, the British people had a British player who was 6'4", Sarah Gomer. She was number 2 in England with a really bad arm, and she was under contract with this British part of my powerRaq company, and she came to New York to the U.S. Open, and I went to LaGuardia and picked her up, and she's 6'4", and Daniel is the only one in my family that didn't have a footboard on his bed. So he slept in our room on the floor, and we gave Sarah the bed. And every night we'd feed her pasta, and I'd drive her over to the U.S. Open, and she kept winning. And she got to the 3rd round, as did Todd, and then she played Monica Seles. So I had my little daughter go around going, "Aye, aye," like screaming at her, because Monica Seles made noise when she played. And so by the time we got there, she was staying at my house, so we were the family in the box. And we had, right before that, we had a celebrity tennis event that Dinkins was at, and so we had a little bit of notoriety and lots of publicity. I had articles in the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and Newsweek, and that's how Suntory figured out, because Suntory was the owner of Newsweek in Japan, and when Newsweek put the article in, someone from Suntory contacted me and said, "We'd like to sell it here." And so it had a lot of international appeal. Yes?
Has this technology transferred to a lot of other nettings and stuff like that?
Well, Japan has that there was a basket show at the Metropolitan Museum of Art that I went to a couple months ago, and many woven baskets by Japanese weavers are of this 3-directional pattern that people believe is a very strong pattern. But in a tennis racket, it was a little stiff and hard to, it cut vibration 40%, which is why the racquetball racket people loved it, and they did research, and they had big ads in Sports Illustrated. But it wasn't the perfect racket. And so I stopped for a bit, and as a painter, I illustrated several children's books and did a mural this is Westport. I was hired to do a stained glass mural in a school in Scarsdale. And so I pursued my art career for a bit. But then after a while, I said, okay, there has to be another design in tennis that would be better than the powerRaq, that would encompass the diagonals, but maybe not 3 directions. So then with a partner, now you want to put on powerRaq? On powerRaq? With a partner, we then said, okay, mathematically, I figured out what the angle of the diagonal had to be so that the shape of a racket would not distort. Because if it's too angled, then it would be short. It was like putting only verticals in. It would be short and fat. And if it's too horizontal, it would be tall and skinny. So there's a mathematical symmetry that you need to figure out in order to get, if you don't have a vertical to hold the racket from being, to hold it in place, you need to figure out what the mathematical angle is. And so my patent I was able to get a second patent on another string pattern, which was a good thing. And I learned from the first endeavor that you need to have 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. You need to have numbers around the frame so the stringers don't hate you. And that now the internet was there so that I could disseminate the knowledge on how to string it on the internet. And we could have a website.
And stringing directions.
Okay, and the streaming directions. Yeah, up on the website. Can you put the advantages there? Okay, this is incredible technology. So Daniel created this great website that we have. You can buy online, and the advantages of powerRaq is proven by some young person contacted me and said he's trying to an Intel Scientific Award he's trying to win, and he did a study that proved that powerRaq had 40% less vibration, and he then went to Princeton. And he claims that because I gave him a break and I strung up 6 rackets, 5 power angle and 1 conventional, that he was able to do this research, and he screamed, Miss Outman, you're not going to believe it, I got into Princeton based on the fact that I won the Intel semifinalist award.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a coup. And it helped us because, he was able to prove that conclusive scientific lab tests from 300 trials proved the power on diagonally strung rackets reduced vibration transmitted to a player's arm by 40% while maintaining excellent control. And now, so powerRaq went away. I sold all the rackets that I had, and I found that, okay, I'm regrouping, and I went to Power Angle. And I, for 15 years now, I've been working on this, and I get love letters from people who had to give up tennis because their arm was killing them. One guy sent me 24 bottles of red wine because he said I was waiting, and I thought he was a kind of lowlife because I sent him 2 rackets, and I never heard from him. So I thought, okay, that's a lowlife. And then he called and he said, okay, I was waiting for the pain, and the pain never came, and I beat the pro that I usually have trouble beating, and my arm is killing me, and I ice it. And so do you like red wine or white? So I still haven't finished those red wine bottles. I wanted to open them all one day. My husband said, no, I'm not going to do that. Because I thought, well, then I could really do a taste test. But so we still have those red wine bottles, which I'm sure are bad by now. But and just yesterday, I played tennis with 4 women, and we had like it's not uncommon, but all 4 people had power angle rackets, and I make them buy them because if you give them away, then it doesn't have any value. So they bought the rackets, and they're all playing it. And the 2 women who bought it recently, they're so much better to play with because I swear, you look at the corner and the ball goes, and they don't have any arm pain, and they have stronger hits, and I am not as good as them. I mean, I always win because I like to run, and I hit them where the ball. I use the grand. I look at the corner, and I can get the ball to go just where I want it to go. And if I hit it to them, they hit it harder, and I can't hit it back. So I hit where they're not, and then they're not that good runners, and then they, I went, yes.
Does it also help your direction? And does the weave help you cut the air cleaner?
Yeah, and actually we've done a lot of tournaments, and we did one tournament in Fort Lauderdale, in Key Biscayne, and right there they had somebody who was from the gas company or the electric company, and they had a gun, and every day they had Prince and Wilson and Head and Power Angle, and they had 4 rackets that we'd given for the people to test the speed of serve, and every day they came to our booth and said, you're not going to believe it, but you guys won, that if somebody served 100 miles an hour, then it was 115 with the Power Angle, and clearly I'm not a 100-mile-per-hour server, so I can't say that helps me, but I look at the corners, and that's where the ball goes. Or I look like the net, and they're like, how'd you do that? I'm like, I don't know. And then they get the racket, and I say to myself, I think I'm going to have to take back the rackets because now they're playing better and they know my tricks. But
Did you ever help the Eskimos out?
Well, I figured if all else fails, I could string them up and use them as snowshoes. But anyway,
the tires in the car.
Oh, yeah. So now let me explain to you. This is better, I believe, than powerRaq was because of a number of things. Number one, they're tournament legal. Every time this is a really important point. I became friends with the International Tennis Federation because I had to have them approve the racket. They have a bank. They have a vault in London, in Wimbledon, and that's where the headquarters of the International Tennis Federation is. And when you apply for a racket to be legal, you send it to them, and if it's legal, they put it in the vault. And so when a player in a tournament is using a racket, they have to have had it in the International Tennis Federation. So first I did it with powerRaq, and since only 2 points cross in a plane, it is legal for tournament play. But it's hard to string. So for Power Angle, I had to do it again. Send them all these 4 rackets. There's 4 rackets in the series.
The 3 are over there.
Okay, so there's 2 mid-size, one for a player that's this very excellent pro designed the weighting for a professional player. So should we get a professional player, we already have the racket designed for him that's very heavy. And then there's this one that a lot of good players use. And then this is the Ace of Diamonds, the Pro, this is the Pro. There's a Centric that's 102 square inches, and there's the Grand, which is the blue racket, which is 115 square inches. So they are the healthiest racket for your arm because it has 40% less vibration and controlled power with added spin. That's what I was telling you about. And it's approved for tournament play, and it's easy to string. People who string say that this racket is easier to string than conventional rackets, which I have a stringer in New Haven that I met at the Connecticut Open, which is the tune-up. It used to be the Pilot Pen, and now every year it has a new person's name, but it's the women's tournament, and I met this guy who now, when I have a racket to string, since he's such an expert stringer, I send it to him, and then he ships it out for us.
Is that Chris?
Chris Gaudreau.
He lives in Branford. He lives in my town.
That's a really nice guy. At Racket Coop.
Racket Coop in Westville.
In West Haven. No,
Westville.
I
It's
thought
in
it was
New
New
Haven.
Haven.
It's in New Haven.
Yeah. So he kind of is a very trustworthy guy that he's probably strung most of these. So and he's strung at the French Open. I mean, he's a really quality stringer. So my son's working, so he's on call. Okay. Yes.
The grand one looks like it's strung a little different at the bottom. It's,
Well,
spacing's different.
it's there are two different type of machines, 10 stringing machines that you could use. Personally, I have one that's grabs the racket here and here and has a spoke here. Chris, who strung this, uses an electronic machine that has a big thing down here, a big thing that holds up against the racket. And he claims that by the time you get down to here, it doesn't really matter because you've already now, the ball's hitting the frame. And he thinks this angled at the bottom works better for him. Whereas you see how this does, they're all parallel? If I string this on mine, like my personal racket, I string, this racket, this string is up here, and this string is down here, and it's, these are all parallel. He gives that's his little signature thing, so I know which one he's strung.
So the one you use isn't like that, it's strung.
No, but people like this. I mean, because it sort of gives a little bit extra spin on it. I don't know. My racket that I use, I have a different stringing machine, so I don't have that. But these are the 4 rackets that we now sell as part of the family of rackets, and I design. My artwork is helpful because I never have to go out of the company to do anything. I know Photoshop, and so I design the rackets, and then it's kind of like different hats that I wear. So I employed all young people to help me at the U.S. Open, and it's quite fun to have intergenerational approval of what I do. So these are the 4 rackets that we sell now.
So do you dominate the market now?
Do I dominate the market? No. I am the only woman in the world that owns a tennis racket. No. Okay, so when you say do I dominate, there's a very, very small amount of people who work in my company. Prince, Head, Wilson, they have hundreds of people that go from club to club to sell rackets. So even when I designed for Omega, one time they invited me to come to their national sales meeting in Overland Park, Kansas. So I flew out there, and there was a room of 50 men, seriously 50 men. I was the designer of the Omega. They actually sold 500,000 rackets. So that was terrific in terms of me thinking, boy, I must be really rich. But in fact, I don't know. It was pennies per racket, but it was cumulative over a lot of years. But it was enough to make me feel happy that a product that I designed is out there. And I've met people from time to time, like skiing, I said, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I design rackets. And Omega goes, oh, I had one of those Omega Mad Rack. And he said, that was the greatest racket. But after a bit, the Omega rackable courts became fitness courts. They found that they could make more money in exercise than in 2 people playing racquetball. And racquetball maybe is having a little resurgence now, but Omega, they said of all the rackets that they make, the only one that was selling was powerRaq, because it was in the industry, it was unique, and that was they had the corner on the market of and so from 1980 to 87, I did quite well, and I took the money from that and started a tennis racket company called powerRaq, and then that was wonderful when the rackets, the royalty checks came. I'd say to my little kids, "Come on, let's go to the toy store," because it was not, it's not like I go to work and I get money. It's like you create something and then you're lucky enough to sell it to a company, and then you get the royalty checks, and so there's a lag between when you actually do the work and when you reap the reward. So then, after a bit, after Omega said that it's like selling buggy whips, that horse and carriages were no longer out there, and so people didn't need buggy whips because there were no horse and carriages, and they described rackable rackets as the same, that in a declining industry, they were selling more rackets, but after a while, they found that it was very hard to maintain, even though they had the biggest market share, they couldn't really keep selling them, and so they phased out that part of their business. But it was quite the great thing as inventors that I went to their sales meeting, and they said that best story. I mean, they always looked at me as the little girl from New York, even though I had 3 kids, and I would come to them and fight with them because they were selling the rackable rackets without stringing instructions. And I said, you can't sell a product without string instructions. And they said, you're just a little girl from New York. Like, we can't listen to you. And it was a very, it wasn't a very fair way that they treated me, I felt. And when I looked at that room of all those men selling a racket that I designed, I figured I should be a little bit richer than I was. And so then I asked them for a review of their royalties that they gave me. And of course it comes back that, oh, we made a mistake and we paid you too much, so the next time we're not going to pay you as much.
Wow.
And then they kept negotiating, okay, well, the industry is failing, so if you don't lower, we made a deal with you, but we can't really honor that deal. And so it was like, and the lawyer that I had was a really great lawyer, because he said, okay, I could be your negotiator, but I want you to go there. And the deal is that if you have a high royalty, then you have a low guaranteed minimum. And if you have a low royalty, then you have a high guaranteed minimum. So I went with them with a high royalty per racket, but you only have to sell a certain amount, so you're not really, you're not committing to a lot. But if you sell, then I should reap the rewards because you're selling a product that I designed. And so they then sold, $500,000. And they said, well, you know what? Now we have to renegotiate because we don't want to pay you that much money. And I said, well, but the deal was that you're not risking anything. I asked you not. I made it so that you didn't have to risk anything. But if you're selling, you should then pay me. And they said, well, that's nice, but we can't do that. So you're making too much money, and so we're lowering your royalty. And it wasn't fun. So then I said, okay, I'm taking that money and I'm going to own my own company so that I don't ever have that experience again. And so when I finished Penn and I came to New York and started working on my invention, I got a job as an engineer at IBM. And the guy at IBM said, okay, you need to sign over any invention that you make while you're working here. We have to be in charge of your invention. And I said, well, but I did that before I started working here. I invented this when I was in college. And they said, you still have to sign it over. And I said, I'm not signing over. So every review, they said, you didn't sign over your patent yet. I'm like, I'm not signing over my patent. It has nothing to do with computers or, what I do here. I help you, but I can't sign it over. And so I didn't really love that. And on my vacation, I went to Washington to the patent office and worked on my patent. And they said, how was your vacation? I'm like, great, I went to Washington. And he goes, you're spending too much time on your invention. I said, but it's on my vacation. I could go where I want. And so I felt at IBM, I was their hire of their token woman. I mean, it doesn't seem to be, I'm happy to be a woman, but in the big establishment of the industrial world, it's you're not taken that seriously. So at IBM, they wouldn't be nice to me because I wouldn't sign away my invention, which I didn't feel was fair. So then after 2 years working there, I got a patent, and I said, okay, I don't know when I'm going to get another patent, but I would like to spend my time being president of the company rather than not president of the company. So I left IBM and I became president of MadRaq. And Madeline's racket, I mean, it was quite obvious why I was the president. And I had invented this all by myself. And it was so rewarding when when this lawyer did me really a favor and taught me how to negotiate. And when I was able to go to Japan and Taiwan. In Taiwan, I was tall because the people are really small. And so I would teach them how to string, like, oh, look how little they are. It was just, it was like I could see when you get up in an airplane and you stand up, I could never see over anybody. Here, I arrive in Japan, I'm like, oh, look, I see all the way there. And the people are so little. I loved it. And I taught them how to string because many of the international sales were sold strung. So I went to Japan, and then from there I went to Taiwan to work in the factory to teach the people how to string. And they were shocked that it was a woman in Japan. He said, do you drive? And I said, yeah. And they said, women here don't drive. I'm like, no, I drive. And the other wonderful experience I had was at Mizuno, which is a sporting goods company. And the president of the company was going to come to America to work to have a pro golf tournament. And so he wanted to practice his English. So I went there to teach them how to string, and this was on the MadRaq thing, and he said, would you mind, like, teaching them how to string and then coming to my club, and he'd say, this is Mr. So-and-so, he's 84 years old. And it was just such a wonderful, like, intellectual, like, it was, there I was so far away. They taught me how to take the subway from where I was staying to where the Mizuno building was. And all I knew was I had to count 3 places because all the signs were in Japanese. And then I get there, and I'm tall, and I'm thrilled because I've managed not to get lost, because if I got lost, I didn't know what I would do. But I got there, and and he took me to his house to show me typhoon, was construction that was not easily blown over by the typhoons. And it was just, and then the guy came to New York, the person who was my guide, Tak Sugimoto, and my name was Madeline, but it's Madarin. And he'd say, hello, Madarin? Do you know what this is? So some of my friends still call me Madarin because became my name for a bit. And it was just such a wonderful, that whole thing was wonderful. And some guy from England called me one day and said, I'm flying over New York, I'm reading Newsweek, and I see your racket. Can you send me one to LA, overnight it? So yes. And then he said, okay, I want to be the distributor for England and Europe. And so he came back with his partner, and they came to New York, and they said, we're going to help you. We're going to sell it in England, this MadRaq. And so they found Sarah Gomer, who was the 6'4". She was so tall. My husband, he's a doctor, and he never came home from work once in his life. When Sarah stayed with us, he was home at 6 o'clock to go practice, and the kids were the ball girls and ball boys. And it was just, like, so cool to have a British, player in taking care of her and feeding her pasta and driving her there. And when she got interviewed by BBC, having gotten to the 3rd round, and before that she always lost in the 1st round, she said, what do you owe your success to? And she said, because I played a really tough game of Monopoly with 3 little kids and I won. And so she had a wonderful sense of humor and was very sweet to my children. And she made us all look like little 6'4". She was this giant woman. I got to Kennedy, to LaGuardia, and I picked her up. I'm like, Sarah? Like, yeah, okay, come with me. You're staying with us. And we just, it's been a very exciting experience. And then, so I did that MadRaq thing. And then the thing my son wanted me to tell you is that the reason power angle works, another reason, is the tire. When tires were first invented, the wheels had treads that were parallel to the circumference of the tire. They came down vertically. And then they realized that if they made them diagonal, they would be better traction on the road. So tires originally had parallel tread marks, and then they got them to be diagonal. And so one of the other reasons why this works is that the ball gets stuck on the strings longer, and so you have a longer what they call dwell time because of the traction of the ball. And I think it that's just another reason. And the ideal comfort is that the diagonal strings are more equal in length. So if you have a conventionally strung racket, you have a short string and a long string that are unequal in length and vibrate unequally. So your hand is always playing catch up. Whereas here, this diagonal is the exact identical length of that diagonal. And when the ball hits, the impact is dispersed along equal vectors. Whereas if it's conventional, it's short and long, and your hand is playing, catch up. And as a painter, sometimes I'll be playing tennis and someone will say, "Can I try your racket?" And I say, "No." They go, "What do you mean no?" I said, because if I take their racket, in 2 seconds my arm hurts. So it's clearly not worth it. I said, "I'll give you one to try. You can," and I'm very generous about our policy is that play with it for 2 weeks. If you like it, keep it. If not, give it back. They rarely come back. I don't have very many demos because it really works. Lately I've been getting calls from people, random calls, like some woman in Cape Cod said, "I am in love with your product. I cannot tell you how much I think your racket's great. I play tennis with a lot of different women, and it's just, so helpful." So I said, "That's nice." Then she went to Florida, and I get a call from someone who goes, "I just played with this woman's racket." I sent her a couple of extra rackets because she was so over the top about, I could use help like that when she was just ridiculously, and I don't have many demos, but I just had 2, so I was like, "Here, I'm just sending them to you." And she said, "Wow, that's unbelievable how I just think your product's great. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I went to Florida." And so somebody from Florida calls up and said, "So-and-so gave me the racket. I love it. I'm buying one." I'm like, "Okay, fine." Then somebody from San Diego calls up and said, "I've just bought 3 of your rackets. My wife tried it. It's terrific. How are you selling it?" And so, just today, some guy from Arizona calls up and buys several rackets. He has been selling them in Arizona for years now, and he said that I dropped the price to $149 for the holiday. And so he said when he saw on my website that it was $149, he sold 2 rackets that day. That people are afraid it's going to go creep back up, and so I think $149 is like the magic price for this product. And I don't know. I said to him, I have this speech I'm going to give tonight. And I said, "Why are you calling me today? Why do you love this racket?" And he said, "Because when I watch these people play and nobody has arm pain and everybody loves what they're doing, it seems like a product that is terrific." And we've been in business for 15 years, and I would not be in business for 15 years if the product didn't work. The product clearly works. And when you ask me, am I taking over the industry? No, because I'll tell you what. Like one club that I play, I showed the racket to the club, and they said, "That's nice, but we can't carry it." And I said, "Why? It's really, look, I'm on a court with 4 women, and they're all playing with this racket." And they said, "Because we're under contract with Wilson, and if I put your racket in my shop, then the balls are going to be more expensive, and the rackets are going to be more expensive. They only will allow us to carry their rackets." And those men that were the Omega salesmen were probably now out there selling Prince and Wilson and Head. And even I belong to a club in the Cape, and the guy has, Babolat shoes, Babolat rackets, and he said, and that woman who is my, ardent, enthusiastic supporter, she said, "It's unbelievable, that club, they don't carry a racket." They said they used to, but now they have Babolat, and the whole wall of rackets is Babolat, and Babolat does the same thing as Wilson, as does Prince, as does Dunlop, as does Head.
But if the pros like it because it is faster and everything else, wouldn't they carry the
because they get cool pants and shoes and bags, and it's a very brand conscious industry. And the people who I have who are my ardent supporters have risen above, and the pain makes it so that I don't really care what brand I'm using. If my pain goes away and I'm playing better and my arm is not getting tired. And when we had players using MadRaq on the tour, there was one time at the U.S. Open where both of them got to the 3rd round, and these people came out of the woodwork, the writers from the Daily News and the New York Times, And that was exciting because they said, how did these people get to the third round when both of them lost in the first round before? And I said, the product really works. And so there was a bit of a spike. I think my personal philosophy is that life is a sine curve. That like, okay, that's great, they won, but other people are not carrying it because they're connected to Prince and Wilson. And then, okay, this lady really likes it, but the club that I play at can't carry it. And I think that's what's sort of like, okay, I have today I found a place to park and the guy gave me something for the wedding. And then the place where I'm meeting you is like about half a mile away. Now we're carrying all this stuff. So I think like that's a par for the course, that I don't even like it when good things happen because like, you kind of go down there. But anyway, so tell me if you have any, so now you know what I do. I do powerRaq. I've done like stained glass murals in Scarsdale in between, which is nice because, I like to try different things. I have oil paintings. These books are all, I paint in oil basically. So the books that I illustrated it's a British woman that I met at a cooking class in Positano, and she wrote a book, and so then I illustrated it. So that was a quite wonderful experience with a British author. And then I said, okay, now I have to get back to my tennis racket because I really love what I do. There's just not enough hours in the day for me to paint in. Like a great day is if I do, like today I had tennis racket stuff that I like packaged up and sent out, and okay, I looked at my easel, but I didn't, that's all I could do, and I didn't paint, but I am coming here, and so it's been quite a wonderfully interesting experience when we go to dinner. My husband, he is like, he does something that, he's an excellent, excellent doctor, but, he saves people's lives. And I don't save people's lives, but I save people's arms. And so I think that what I do is important. But he is like, if we go to dinner and someone says, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? I'm like, I invent tennis rackets. The whole conversation, he's like, oh my God, do we have to talk about tennis? And I said, yeah. And that's the only racket that I'll let him use. So we went to California to visit my son, and he leaves the racket after he went through the customs, the screening. I said, where's your racket? He goes, oh, I was trying to lose it. I'm like, you're not losing it. So he kind of keeps me like loving what I do, but like I'm almost figuring out how to make it so that I am the most, positive racket. I mean, I'm the most, with the most sales, but it's a very hard thing, but I take what I get, and, I just do what I have to do. Yes.
How much increase in area do you get for the sweet spot? And does it extend almost to the frame?
Well, you know what? They did tests in World Tennis Magazine when they had that. And they showed like Prince like this, Wilson like this, power angle. And there was a show called the Super Show in Atlanta that I went to every year. And it was amazing that I had this booth that was 10 square feet, and Wilson had this booth that was 200 square feet by, it was 2,000 square feet. And yet my racket always outperformed theirs. And people from Nike came by and said, wow, what a great idea. So they said, we would love to have that. I said, okay, I'll barter you. If you give me 5 pair of sneakers and 5 warm-up suits. And so I went home with all these clothes for my whole family. And they said, wow, how'd you get that? And I said, that meant a lot, but Nike didn't want to branch out of hard goods, what they were selling. So it's not easy I keep on getting close. Like Prince at Dunlop, the guy who was my person who picked me up when I was working on the Dunlop negotiation, he was the gopher. He got me at the airport and, said, I wish we could put powerRaq in all our rackets, but we have, conventional strings. We don't want to cannibalize our conventional stringing. So then fast forward 20 years later, he's president of Prince. And I called him and I said, do you remember me, that you helped me and I, made these designs? And he said, of course, what are you selling now? And I said, diagonal rackets, and it plays really even better than powerRaq, and it's easy to string, and, you should consider it. And so he flew me over twice. And Daniel, he came with me one at a time. So it's great that I drag him along with me, although now he's working. But he went with me to Italy, and that was fun. Like yes.
Do you, on the frames, do you do the diagonal stringing through the same holes? So you don't have to get custom
No,
drilled holes through the frame, it's the same,
no, absolutely
not,
not.
it's not.
I have to
Right.
design the frame to accommodate symmetrically.
okay.
Like these are all symmetric. You know, these strings are all parallel. And the only way that, and the grommets are angled like this, and the only way that would happen is if I calculate exactly where to do it. So I have for instance, this is one of the patterns that I found that then I send this to Asia. I have an agent who has come to New York multiple times, but I met with him in Asia, and I figure out where the holes should be, and then I design that. So that's it's very, very specific. Yeah.
So when it comes to your patent and your diagonal design, because it's your patent, no other company can design their rackets that way?
Correct. Yes, that so far so good. But I mean, if a company like Wilson that has lawyers on their staff so far no one's ever, like with powerRaq or this, no one's ever tried to make a racket because I think it's a pretty, bad. It looked pretty bad if they stole the racket. When I went to Italy, what happened was the people proved that a Prince racket strung diagonally played better than the one that they were selling. And the president of the company said, I think we should do this. And I thought, oh, here, home run. That's unbelievable. I'm outside of Venice. Prince, which is owned by Benetton, or was at the time, their research staff is outside of Venice, in Trieste. And I thought that was just wonderful. And then I get a call from the president saying that he had a fight with the head of research because he wanted to go through with this, and research had this idea of big holes that he was working on, and if you get ideas from out of the company, you have to pay more per racket because you have to pay the royalty of the inventor. And then why is he on the staff if he can't come up with new ideas? So
So is it because you was basically doing his job?
yeah, and so why is he there? If we have to go outside the company to get new ideas, well then, and so the guy who was head of research said, this is what I think we really should do. And then the guy who was the president said, I had a do not compete clause in my thing, and I'm selling fishing lines in Scotland now. And I left Italy, and so that was, then I didn't pursue that, yes.
So how long ago were you with Penn?
I graduated in 1976 with a master's in math education, and I took courses at Philadelphia College of Art, and my undergraduate degree was a joint math fine arts degree that I loved math and I loved art, and I was able to take enough math courses, enough art courses.
So is your art realistic? Or?
Yes, quite realistic, yeah.
In terms of the holes that are in the frame, how do you drill those? And they has to be smooth, I would think, or you
Well,
cut the gun.
I don't drill the rack. I mean, the rackets
How
are
are
all
they
made
drilled?
in Taiwan, and they have a factory that they go like this with a drill press, and they set up the drill press, and then they have inside there's a grommet strip. You see that white thing?
Yes.
That goes inside the holes that I designed. The holes have to be, the grommet strip is here. This is a grommet strip to prevent, if you scrape on the ground. So there's a grommet strip here that's a bumper guard, and then there's a grommet strip that goes in here and one in here, so that when they take this fiberglass racket and they manufacture it, they drill it. Before, the metal rackets, they would have a long strip, and they would drill the holes, and then they would have a machine that bent it into a racket, and then they would make a grommet strip that matched the hole pattern. And when I was at Penn, there was this company, Head, which was outside of Philadelphia in New Jersey.
There used to be in Timonium, Maryland, at ski.
Head Ski, well, that was Howard Head, but
Yes, I met them long ago.
so
Went through the plant, and you could eat off the floor. It was the cleanest.
Right,
thing.
no, and this
Literally.
no, and this plant where they made the tennis rackets was outside of Philadelphia, and I would take the train from Penn, and they would watch me work on my invention, and it was inspirational, I think, for their workers to see someone like wasn't punching a clock, but was working. And in exchange for my letting me work there, the two owners had planes. And they were trying to figure out if there was a market for these private jets, these Lear jets fly all around the country, taking executives from, let's say, New York to Kansas. And then they fly back empty. And so he had me teach him statistics. What is the odd? If you want to go from A to B, what is the probability of empty plane during the day going in that thing? So I would teach him math, and in exchange, they would let me tinker in their workshop, and that was very exciting. You know that I thought I like struck it. I left there with like 6 rackets one day. I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. Now sometimes I have these rackets, and I'm thinking, you know, there's so many rackets. It's wonderful that I could, you know, continue this journey.
Who do you sell through? You have reps or you have people dedicated?
I don't have any reps, but I do have online. I have a distributor, and you know, people just find us. I don't know. I mean, we have a good website, and it seems like one person tells another, and
The booths.
and we have booths at the Connecticut Open and in the U.S. Open. We have booths in the Florida tournaments. So.
Where do you fit in pricing, and how big a market share do you have?
Well, we had Columbia University do a business study, and so that was a little bit helpful. A business model of what our target market should be, and the small business entity part of Columbia University Business School found us and contacted us, and I had a few meetings there, and so that was helpful to look at a marketing. And my IBM days taught me how to, you know, as a business model. I like that part of IBM best, to figure out how much you put into research and product design. And
I assume you're more or less high end.
yeah, we are definitely high
So
end.
you what, like at least $100?
Here, look at the screen. So usually it's $199, which is, you know, towards the top of the high end. Right now that's actually a holiday sale, and they've been really selling hot at $149 plus shipping and stringing.
Right, and every racket comes with a water bottle. We have this company StayFit we've partnered with, and so we have these water bottles that come, and we have a
Rack cover.
a racket cover that comes with each racket, and it's designed so that the can of balls fits on the racket, so that you have a free hand. One time I was leaving the house and I had the balls in the can and the carpet, and I'm like, okay, this is too much. So then I said, well, can they make it with the loops? And so now they make the racket cover with the loops that, you know, a can of balls can easily fit into. So
And the pocket also.
Huh?
The pocket.
Right, and inside there's a pocket that, you know, we can have the proven tournament play. $149, yeah.
So in recent years, what's emerged is newer strings that grab the ball better, and pros are using it, and you even hear commentators saying that's the newer strings that have more control. So they're
Yep.
commenting on that. Have you strung some of these rackets that way,
Yeah,
and
but
are
I
you getting feedback on that?
Well, I think it's the bigger thing is that the diagonal stringing helps so much that yes, you can. People have favorite string that they like to put in,
And we have recommended string.
and we have we have play tested a lot of different strings.
Grippier than what was previous. In other words,
But you know what? I
equivalent
think,
to what I think Babolat was the one that came out with the grippier string.
but grippier string might not be so easy on your arm because it has some vibration that it grips it, but it it's a little bit.
Doesn't release.
It doesn't release as well. So then you have extra vibration. Whereas the string that that I play with and that I recommend is really kind on your arm and
So
less
it's
vibration.
optimal. You've optimized the
Yes,
stringing.
yeah. But if somebody loves a certain string, we can string it in any string that they want.
And is there a recommended tension, or is that just
Yeah,
totally?
well, it strings up tighter than conventional stringing. So I recommend that you string it a few pounds, 5 pounds less than you would normally. If you string it at 65, if you string it at 60, this will play or 63, this will play like 65. And then these machines that are electronic, like on my machine, I like 60, plays great. But on an electronic machine, you have to do it 55 to get that same, because it's a constant pull. It pulls all the time. Whereas the others are tension, it reaches the tension and a lever flips away.
Do you have any slow-mo shots of your racket versus anybody else? Is that what you do? Take a slow-mo picture. 1,000 frames a second.
Yes, actually, the guy who won that Intel award, he tested with a high-speed camera how long it takes for the ball to
And does your string get more or less?
40%. It stopped vibrating 40% more quickly. Than
And his whole study is here on our website. We link to it on the advantages page. So if you want to see it, basically, it's 22 pages, and then he's got charts and graphs and.
Right, you see that in the charts and the graphs, but go back to, see that's how he did it, in the
Right here.
charts and the graphs, he shows conventional string and the diagonal string, why is that, yes?
I was on a tennis team in high school a long time ago, and I seem to remember, didn't Yonex get into diagonal stringing for a little while?
There were rackets that were strung diagonally, but they were not,
They used the same holes?
they were not balanced, so in order to string it, you needed to put a pole in it, otherwise the racket would crack. And so I think what I did was to figure out mathematically what the symmetry of a vertical and a horizontal would be. And when I came up with that, that was a eureka kind of moment, because the racket didn't warp.
Okay, so you never did a deal with Yonex, were they?
No, I did not.
And here's the level of vibration. Look.
Yeah, that shows that conventional vibrates, and this stops vibrating less frequently.
You go down a few pages more. Yeah, this graph. This one shows like because
So what are we seeing there?
so that's the vibration.
So the top is power angle. The bottom is conventional rackets.
That it vibrates not equally.
So the short string
Yeah.
vibrate
Yeah.
higher frequency.
Right.
So
Yeah.
power angle, basically all the strings are the same length.
Right.
It's
Same
not.
language.
So if you have a conventional racket, you have it's basically you have the horizontal and vertical. So it's you have a short horizontal up here, while all the diagonals are the same length.
But essentially, it's like the same amount of energy dissipated because the area under the curves would be about the same.
No,
Many-
because
many
it's
more
like
curves.
no, because let's say you if you're like punched like that,
Mhm.
that's worse than like a slow punch.
Yeah,
And so-
MV squared.
Yes, so that we found that the absorption of the vibration is better for power angle. It absorbs the vibration more quickly and more evenly than a conventional racket that has torque, because the verticals vibrate at one frequency and the horizontals at another, and so your hand is playing catch up to compensate. And so you asked about like where we sell it, like many clubs that we sell to, we send them just simple 40% less vibration, boom, that's it. And we found that when we send rackets, people buy rackets in clubs, the result and the recognition of the fact that they're better for their arm and they play better and they feel better, those people become our ambassadors, and we call them Team Power Angle.
Like when we did with the Open, 2002.
Yeah, at the Open in 2002, Wilson had a booth 3 stalls down. We sold, 20 times as many rackets as they did. And
That was our big coming out party. That was our big debut.
yeah, that was a big debut, and we're still selling rackets to the people we met there. We still have contact. Yes.
I would think that if you took a wind velocity meter, put it through a normal racket versus yours, you're going to see the wind velocity is not deterred as much in yours.
I would probably think that that's
Could
true.
see
but we-
better in the normal swing.
Yeah,
Probably
because
could see. More aerodynamic.
it's yeah, and I mean
Well, like
it's
the
just,
car tires.
and the car tires, right? The traction is better, and the
And you would put the wind through at an angle because when you're swinging, you're always at an angle.
Could you tell us how much it costs to make one?
And you said fiberglass. Aren't a lot of modern rackets made with carbon fiber now?
this is graphite. Yeah,
Oh, it is?
100% graphite.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gone through metal rackets and
How much graphene do they put in rackets, or is that a joke? Is there any graphene at all in any racket?
graphite.
No graphene,
Graphene, no, not that
but
I.
they advertise that they put graphene.
But when they
It's not
do
even
that,
available.
when they do that and they say titanium,
Graphene.
it's like a pinky toe worth of titanium. Or they say boron, it's like, a fingernail's worth of boron, and they say boron. And so I think the marketing it's like
Mystique. creating
Yeah, I
this-
mean, here you see this is different. You know, it's like we have a frame that's state of the art, but the first place the ball hits is the strings. So this is a frontier that I don't know why companies are not. I mean, I address
Because you have the
this.
patent on it.
Yeah, I know. So, but why the it seems like even commentators don't really. I have to fight and say the first place the ball hits is the string. Won't you recognize that this deserves to exist? That there's conventional. But think about it. There's 20 companies, so 19 of them have conventional stringing, and they get their advertising dollars from these people, and I don't. We don't really pay for marketing. We just do it ourselves or word of mouth, and so when they talk about stringing, they talk about the kind of string, they talk about the tension, but it's rare that someone says, oh yeah, look, there's another alternative to stringing. And some people say, why don't I bring back powerRaq? But that was so complicated to string and took so much longer, and the strings never broke. And I actually think this plays better. And powerRaq also, because the vectors, the impact got dispersed along 3 vectors, it hands down was much kinder to your arm than conventional. But it seems like these rackets, the power angle, are superior to what powerRaq was. powerRaq, it's old, but I think I'm onto something. Like these rackets, people love when they.
And we've been around 17 years. At this point.
15, 2002.
Yeah.
So 15 years, and
Is your patent still covering?
Yeah,
Twenty-
it's 17
years.
patents are 17 years.
20 years from date of
Right,
application.
right. So
We
it's
changed it.
They changed it in the
17.
90s. Right, it's 20
Yes.
years, so
right. So it's still
you
valid.
still have a,
Yeah. So I have another.
and you have international as well?
Yeah, I have some international trademarks and patents that I have in England. We have in New Hampshire. People tell me there's a couple of courts they go to that everyone has power angle, and in England I get calls from people that say, I'm at a club and the people use power angle, and I tried it. Do you have distribution here? And at this point, I do not have distribution in England, but I have one guy that I don't know how many rackets he's bought, but he keeps touting the benefits. So, but basically, I'm just concentrating on America. There's enough players here in America that I can, if I get to enough players in America, then I'll be happy. So, but yesterday's tennis game was so much better than when those people didn't use power angle. And I had such a nice experience. Even when I lost the point, I was so proud of them that they played so much better. And it seemed like the people on the court next to me, sometimes I want to say, excuse me, why are you using those old-fashioned rackets when this is so much better? But, I don't.
You contained yourself.
I did, yeah, I behaved. So, and so, yeah. And I mean, it's, there's a fine line between, and it's that sine curve. It's like, some woman a couple of weeks ago, can I try the racket? Yes. So she wanted to try it on Tuesday. So I couldn't get it to the guy at the stringer. So I stayed up from 11 to 12 and strung her racket and gave it to her. And she played on the court too good. And she said, oh my God, that's incredible. I played so well. I think it's a fabulous racket. So then she emails me 2 days later, I'm actually returning the racket. And I said, why? I thought you loved it. And she goes, I do, but I can get it cheaper on eBay.
Oh, Lord.
And I said, really? How much cheaper? And she lied. She made up some number and she told someone else a different number. And it was from someone eBay in Canada. So I don't know if they got a racket.
Well, how does the currency convert from Canadian dollars right now? Maybe
Canadian
that's
dollars
what you're
worth
talking.
more.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's not that different. But so she said that she got it on eBay. And then she told someone else she got it eBay in America. So she's totally lying. And then, but I felt bad that I had strung the racket, stayed up until midnight to string the racket so she would have it. And then that was just such a, I don't know, that made me sad that, one time someone stole one of our rackets. And they called and they said, oh, I feel so bad. I was at the club and your racket was stolen. I said, oh, I've arrived. If the racket's stolen, that must mean, that's good. That's fun. And I said, I'll work with you because, wow, someone's stealing our rackets. It must be.
Always have them pay up front.
Yeah.
Always have them pay up
Yeah. No. So
Then they can go to eBay and get their second racket.
yeah, I don't know where they. But I think it was somebody from this guy in Arizona who's from Canada that he sold it to someone that went up there, and then they bought a newer model, and so I
It
said,
wasn't new, it was
no, it was used.
Right.
It was used. So I said, she said, would I guarantee it? And I said, no, you don't know if it ran over by a car or It's very interesting. Like the people love their product. One day, some guy called and said, "I'm sick." And I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "I slammed my car door on the racket." And he said, "But I own Kentucky bourbon place. That's I'll tell you what. I'll send you 5 bottles of bourbon. What's that one? Blanton's bourbon, which has a little horse on top. They're really beautiful bottles for salad dressing." So he said, I'll send you 5 bottles of whiskey if you'll quick send me another racket because I can't play with any other racket. So I said, okay. And another, yes.
I'm sorry. How much string does your racket use compared to conventional? Does it use more string? About the same?
About the same, yeah.
Oh, really?
Just
Yeah.
one piece of string.
What?
One piece of string.
One piece of string.
Mad Rec used to be 2 pieces of string.
Yeah, but we've designed it 1 piece of string, and actually we make string that's half black and half white. That's my design. That you put the string in.
Go all around.
Pardon?
You go all around it?
Well, you have holes.
No.
So,
You put
Here.
the string in here, and then you come this way, and so you know the center where the white and black change. And so when you finish all
you connect black 1 to white
Yeah.
1. To,
black 1 to black 2, black 3, so it makes it easy to string, and when you finish all diagonals in one direction are black and the other ones are white. And so the first stringing that someone does, I usually send them a set of this string, so it's quite easy. You know when the center of the string is where the string changes color, and you go black, there's black, whole black 1 and white 1, and then you come down to white, whatever, and you can do.
Does it take about the same time?
It takes
to
less
string?
time to string than conventional because it has the numbers around the frame, and you can actually, once you learn how to do it, it's quicker to string, and the strings last longer.
How do you know you get the right tension?
Well, the machine, you set the tension.
Oh,
well, we recommend the tension range.
Or you got a small little ring that you pull with. Okay.
No, you set the tension, and on an electronic machine, you set the tension, and then you string it, and then you press a button, and it pulls back, but it was a constant pull. And on the machine that I have, a non-constant pull, when the tension is reached, this little handle pops up, and you have the.
How big is the
music
machine?
playing.
A little thing you hold with your hand? Or
No, it's like a piece of furniture. I mean, it's
Okay.
like
It's a stand.
on a stand.
Oh, you build it on a jig. Yeah.
It's on a stand.
Here, I
Have
go
you
find
seen a stringing machine?
No.
Here.
No, it's not stringing machine.
My brother actually has one.
See, that's sort of the paintings that I do. That's
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
these are string machines. Like here, that's what. So you put the racket at the top,
Oh, okay.
and then that's the little thing that you turn, and then
Okay.
can you get a Babylon up there? This is great that you have
Where's
there.
the readout?
I think I've been reading the factory.
It's on the other side of where it says gamma. There's a little.
Okay.
You see that little
Oh, it's
black
on the other
thing?
side of that circular thing. This is a
Yeah.
little digital readout? Yeah, okay.
Or if she has got
What is the
one,
biggest
maybe
tournament won using this
by
racket?
writing her license.
What is the biggest what?
One of the other.
Tournament that was won using this racket?
Actually, the Key Biscayne doubles tournament. Our guy won the Key Biscayne. Todd Witzkin won Key Biscayne, and at the U.S. Open, there was a guy, Sandy Mayer, who won the men's over 35. He turned 35. He was on the grandstand, and on the main, Louis Armstrong was, like 2 really incredible players. Maybe Pete Sampras against someone else.
Legends.
And so there was me and his mother watching him. And then there was screams coming from the main tournament, but he won the men's over 35.
I think we're gonna have to wrap it up, so if there's any final questions, maybe.
Any other questions? You've been a wonderful audience. So.
Well, I
Last question.
Yeah, I had 2 comments. One is you must have the way the forces are distributed, way larger sweet spots.
We do, yes.
Sweet spots on the racket.
Yeah, it does.
That
It's
was
been
really
proven.
one comment. The other comment is you're lucky that Wilson's lawyers hasn't been on your doorstep and showed up there. And so I have a personal experience here. Got a patent that is blocking off basically the industry from the next step. I got the patent in August. And I was late here today because I found it safer to sell it off to one of the major actors in the industry for a cheap price than having the lawyers bombarding me.
Is this, what industry? Is this tennis?
The music industry, music accessories, low profit level and small money overall. And don't be too successful in the inventions.
Well, but I think
And they start to question the patent overall. And
Probably.
as you, a Lone Ranger inventor,
right.
You can't keep up with the big corporations.
No, I'm sure. So they think I'm, small potatoes, which I am, but and it would really be bad PR if they stole from I've been in business 15 years. If they came out with that, I think that would be really bad press for them. So they've left me alone so far, and I just kind of.
It depends on how strong a patent is.
I guess it must be strong that nobody's tried to even rinse, and it seems that I have.
They're just waiting till the time's out and then they'll jump in.
Probably, yeah, but for now, so
or
far.
they'll wait until you're cutting into their market just enough and they'll feel they need
I think
that
that's
edge.
the most
Yeah.
important thing.
Right,
When
but
it starts to cost them too much of the market share.
right. Well, Doug, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to Dan, who is.
There's going to be a holiday party on December, I think it's 7th, and that's a Thursday. And for members of IACT, admission is free. And if you want to become a member, I can sign you up now, or you can sign up on the web. And I sent an email out to everybody today to tell people about the party and also to give them a registration link. And Chad tells me that the interface on the registration is terrible, and he couldn't figure it out. So we did it together, and we got it figured out. So if you're having issues with that, let me know. And thank you all for coming.
Great. If any of you want to buy a racket, if you go to powerangle.net, you can send me an email, and I'll honor the one for you.
They're on eBay.
I left one for $130, and I had one looking.
They're not on Amazon.
They're doing it back door.
That might not be strong though, or shipping.
They have multiples.
If you have coverage in Canada, then I think you say Canada, but I'm not sure. The other thing is that they have to.
How heavy is your rake?
Here. So basically, it's so they're all different balance.
She says.
Wow, so
Really
can you see this?
This is not right. You've got a trademark, and it's a violation.
So different models, but so the lightest one is this. It actually goes. The biggest one is
The common one that you sell most of. What's weight is it?
Oh, so centric and grand are basically most. So the grand is 9.3 ounces strong.
Oh,
The
strong.
115
Okay,
strong.
Okay, so
And then
what square inches is on that?
that's 115. And then the centric is 102. I used to play with the grand. Now I play.
We can do wonders for each other.
Oh.
I changed. I'm a game changer in tennis.
Yeah.
I mean, a serious game changer. If you want, if you want somebody to, I'll travel around, and I'll show you what I can do with the tennis racket. Anything.
Sure.
And at my age, I create solutions for young guys.
Really?
I have.
What racket do you use?
Well, I use a Babylon now.
Okay, yeah.
But it's. I actually built it.
Wow.
I have a shop at Bridgeport, and I got to use the part patents on other things. I'm not going to apply for patents on rackets, but it's a trade secret.
What do you build? Do you build a racket?
I build a racket. Yeah. I do use. I'll tell you another time, but what I will do is no more cost you. I'll demo your racket. I'll buy one.
Yeah.
And then if there's a tournament, I'll travel to the tournament. You gotta get me in there. I need your help to get in because sometimes we keep more guys out.
Wait, what do you mean you'll travel to the tournament? To play? But you play in tournaments, or these are professional tournaments?
I will play against somebody in the tournament of the whole sport. Have a good chance of beating.
No way!
All right. I'll tell you what.
You think you could beat someone top?
They used to have a tennis court here before the basketball.
Yeah.
And I play with some pretty good players. Now, there's a guy, in the last 2 years, I was in Florida twice, and I was in California twice. One of the guys from
I live in Los
California,
Angeles.
one of the guys from California came here this late summer to play with me, and he says, "You've gotten better." So, but I want to tell you, this is a serious game changer. I'm not playing ring tennis.
You can play someone in the top 50 and be competitive? Top 50 men.
You heard it here. Now, if you want to send somebody here, have me go somewhere where you have a 6-all player.
What level are you?
It's what happens now is I bought a motorhome and I was fixing for the past 5 months, so I'm off the clock.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I'm creating new stuff that I didn't know before. Sometimes when you're off the court, you're doing new stuff that you didn't think
Yeah. Did you play professionally when you were young?
No. I hate to tell you when I pick up a racket, but that's beside the point. I do things different than everybody else. I develop my own products. And the government knows it, but I solve problems for them twice.
Wow.
Serious.
Yeah.
You don't have to come bragging about that. But all I want to do is, without wasting much of your time, is get a guy who you believe in is a pro or a capable guy of winning a tournament. And we'll get out there and play a couple of sets.
You think you'll beat him or be competitive?
The chances are I will beat him. Because he's never played against this kind of competition.
5 or 6 years ago.
I mean, the thing is, it's going to make it makes regular tennis. The trouble.
You
with
use a different racket, or what do you use?
I'm using a serious racket. It's strong racket.
Is it tournament legal?
Tournament
legal?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a battle of racket.
So you use a Babolat racket, but what's the secret?
There's trade secrets.
The way you play, or the way the racket's built?
It has to do a lot with the way I play. But the thing is that they haven't changed the game of tennis in 50 years, or more than 50 years.
Okay, yeah.
And the people who teach tennis are people who were no damn good on the court anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what happens is, when you come in and you're doing stuff that they never did, all of a sudden,
Stroke-wise?
Stroke-wise. Yeah.
Do you have videos of you playing?
I destroyed all the videos. I wanted to keep it a secret. Well, trade secrets on it again.
Yeah.
Because
the style you play, or
how many people do you know has reason to be copied writing serve?
Writing what?
Has been able to copy
Roddick serve. Yeah.
How many people do you know?
None. Yes. None. Yeah.
Well, I do it. Wow. That's the.
And you can hit it 130 miles an hour?
No, I'm not as strong as that.
Yeah.
But I can give you. It's not the speed of this thing. It's the kick on the ground. And when he kicks, it goes that way.
Yeah.
And if you're up against somebody who has a similar kick, that's a big
Talk about a
on the
can't
back.
miss opportunity.
If it's moving out 1 foot at the point of where you're going to contact, you're done on a back kick.
So your serve is so good that basically that's how you can be competitive.
It's not. I'm not saying how great it is, but it's just what the ball does when it hits.
The spin. Yeah, the spin. Yeah.
Because you can hit a ball 130 miles an
Yeah,
hour,
I got
and
you.
if it goes straight, you'll get it back.
Yeah. You put a spin on it.
And I can return balls better than any pro you know. Because of trade secrets. Now listen, I'm not going to brag any further.
That's fine.
You get a guy, or give me one of your.
Take down my email address, Dan
No, but
at
here's the
powerRaq.
deal. If I go out into one of these over 50 tournaments, and I win your racket is going to sell 1 million of them. Not exactly better.
Because people will think it's the racket, not you.
No, that's the way the fucking is.
Yeah.
I mean, Babolat does have an edge on everything.
Perhaps. Okay.
Yeah. A little edge on the way I play. So, I mean, head is very close.
You've never tried ours.
I fooled around with the crisscross strings. You can't do a serious lamp with a crisscross string. Because we twist the ball. I'm not knocking your.
Yeah, I mean, I
can
would
live
allow
with
it,
I can live
yeah.
with it. It's not going to make that much difference. But when I do a lamp, it goes into the backhand corner.
Okay, which
Most
top,
guys
yeah.
end up doing it. They do it
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the right hand because when they have to do a backhand.
Yeah.
Federer tries it, but he's doing no spin on. He's just doing a little
Yeah,
moving ball, a
yeah.
small moving ball, and
Yeah.
it comes in. Same way with Andy.
Who's the best player you've played against?
I played against good guys in California. I forget their names.
Like pro level players?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was a pro who lived in the house where I was invited to stay.
And you beat him or competitive against him?
He won't play with me.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, because what happens is
Like he's a teaching pro or?
He's a pro. Yeah, he's on the circuit. He's
Wow.
actually on the circuit last year.
Yeah.
His name is Tyler. I forget the last name. Taller, you know, about 6'2" or. Now, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, you see, unless in the top 20 guys,
Yeah.
everybody has a flaw. After that,
I know, but these guys are 25 years old in incredible shape. I'm not saying you're not.
No,
but yeah.
no. But the thing is, there are people 25 years old in incredible shape and they're pros. They have a flaw.
Of course, or otherwise they would be one. But relative to
I mean, you don't get that Japanese guy every time where he never misses the ball. You're like, you know, I mean, that's unusual. You get, we have, you know, macho guys in the area.
but these guys are so strong and so fit. I can't see how you could be competitive with them.
That's where, see, the thing is, I have skills that they don't have, and nobody's ever taught them, never will.
It's fascinating. Do you have an email address? Do you email?
No, I don't bother with. I have a shop where I develop new products, all kinds of.
What else?
Fitness is a small part.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to tell you is, take it easy. Just get somebody up against me with your racket, or just plain racket, whatever it is, and then we'll see the value in what I'm doing. I'm doing stuff that the pros are not doing. But
So
they will be doing.
your play style, not the technology, your play style.
With the play style, oh yeah, but the racket, the good racket makes.
Fine, but you're just using a regular Babylon racket.
I like to use a racket,
You're not-
but I string it.
You're stringing a tension that you like or string
Right,
that you
but the
like.
thing is, I use 3 strings, but it's not necessary.
But you use what?
I use 2 different strings on the mains and one on the clubs.
Then you cut the strings. You one piece of string or multiple pieces?
No. You can use one. Generally, when I string a racket, I use one piece of string.
Yeah.
But in this case, I'm using 2 different strings on the mains. One half of it is one string and the other half of it, because when I flip the racket, I can do something else that I can't do on the other side. It's not
Unbelievable. So you're a scientist background? What's your background?
Well, yes, I do come up with stuff that's unusual. I mean, I want to brag about I have used it for patents and stuff. I got screwed because I'm not a businessman. I just make new stuff on it. I don't think of the financially. That's why they break me now. I have we had people in California trying to. I'm in a complex where there used to be a lot of research going on. Now it's because of the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because of the neighborhood, it's going down. And. But all I want to do is get up against the pro. Then you decide.
There's no video of you playing that you could send us?
You don't want that because the thing is, people will slow it down and they'll pick it clean of any advantages that they can use.
Of your style?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it'll take a while to learn. It'll take a while to learn that. So,
Yeah.
But the idea is that it's a drastic change. You can benefit from this. I'm using it.
Yeah,
That's it. You could be.
So buy what model would you want?
Well, I
can sell to 149.
I want a light racket.
So the biggest one?
No, not the biggest one. No, but it can't be too small. The head can't be too small. Let me see it.
Actually, I own a company. I do transactional. I live in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, you said
Yeah. Do you
live in Sherman Oaks?
I'm Brentwood. I'm Brentwood.
On Brentwood?
Yeah.
I used to go jogging on Bundy.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I live right
So you
by
have
there.
a-
Yeah, right there.
That's your company.
So it's a corporate housing company. It's a corporate housing company, focused on fitness and wellness. So we have a lot of house
You play
there,
tennis?
corporate clients.
No, my wife does. Oh, okay. I like that. Brentwood's nice.
Yeah, it's a good place. Why'd you move out here?
Venice Boulevard was not that